Motion made by Councilman Lawson. Is there a second?
I will second it. Thank you.
Councilman Rego, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. We will have a brief executive session and return quickly.
Take Chris first, please.
Council will reconvene, and Councilman Rigo, would you lead us to the pledge, please? Once again, for those who maybe weren't here earlier, Councilman Fogarty, Councilwoman Souza are unable to be with us tonight. They had conflicts with some family matters. They're okay, everyone's fine, it's positive reasons, but we do have a quorum for this meeting. Some things will be deferred, but we're able to go ahead with most business. Madam Clerk, you can continue, please.
Okay. We have a motion to seal executive session minutes.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawson to seal the minutes of the executive session. Councilman Rigo with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Next item.
Next, consent calendar for discussion and possible vote. We have the council journals from the regular meeting minutes of January 17th, 2023. The tax abatement, year 2022, $159,000, or $159,253.68. And we have a read-in for a Class F application for special event beer and wine. The applicant was St. Francis Xavier Church, location 160 Orchard Street. It was on January 29th, 2023, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., and it was a dinner.
Thank you. Is there a
Make a
Motion.
motion to accept the consent calendar?
motion by Councilman Lawson to accept?
Second.
Second by Councilman Rigo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
Next.
You.
Next item, licenses for discussion and possible vote. First is a non-public hearing, Class F application for special event, beer and wine. The applicant is JDP Theater Company. The location is 1336 Pawtucket Avenue. It's the Church of Epiphany. The event is on February 11th, 2023, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and it's a murder mystery dinner.
Thank you. It's a non-public hearing. I assume all the paperwork is in and correct, otherwise
Yep, correct.
wouldn't be here. Is the applicant present? Council have any questions?
No, I will say I've worked with Judy and she's awesome. And they bring theater to the city of East Providence, which is great for our quality of life. And I'll make a motion to approve this license.
Motion made by Councilman Lawson to approve, seconded by Councilman Rigo to approve the license. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
Next is application for kennel license. The business name is Strategic K9 Training LLC. The applicant is Joseph Corsi, and the address is 2382 Pawtucket Avenue.
Thank you. Once again, it's non-public hearing. Paperwork is in order. Is the applicant present? Do you need to add anything particular? We'll see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions? If you do want to speak, you have to use the mic because it's recorded. But hang on, I don't think you have to. Are there any questions? Councilman, we got any questions? Entertain a motion?
Do we have to talk to animal control? Are they involved with stuff like this?
They will go out. Do you want to, you can speak if you want.
I just want to make sure we cover that you get everything you need.
Just give your name and address for the record, please.
Horsey. And it's the 2382 Pawtucket Ave.
What kind of canine training when you talk? Is it just for regular pets? You do training, or is it
Yeah,
specialized?
dog
canine
training. Yeah, it's just all breeds.
Okay. And how many hours are you gonna operate?
We're looking to, over 40 hours.
You do
Councilman
well with
Rigo?
you do well with chocolate labs?
All breeds, sir.
Beautiful.
That's a breed we work with a lot. A lot of energy.
Two of them.
Oh, yeah. Two of them, double
Two of
the
'em.
trouble. For sure.
There's no further questions. I'll make a motion to approve this gentleman's license.
I'll second that and good luck.
Motion
Thank you.
made.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded by Councilman Rigo, made by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you for coming. Good luck.
Okay, we do not have any proclamations or presentations. There are no communications. No one has signed up for public comment. We do have 2 appointments. We
Okay,
have,
we'll do the 2 appointments. They should be quick, and then we're going to move up a couple of people on the agenda so they don't have to stay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Number 1, I would like to reappoint Councilwoman Anna Souza to the East Providence Tree Commission. Without objection, is there a motion to approve? Tree for this one, then planning.
She's gonna do both?
Yes.
Perfect, okay.
All right, sounds
I'll
good.
make a motion.
A motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Rigo, to approve Councilwoman Souza to remain on the East Providence Tree Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Also, I would like to reappoint Councilwoman Souza as the council representative to the city planning board. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Rigo. Without objection, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Thank you. This time, without objection, I'm going to move forward to ask, I'm looking for the number it is on the agenda, the Tracy Johnson to come forward, please.
Number 4, Bob.
Number 4, is it? Okay. Oh, this is discussion on the item I've listed. Okay, I didn't know if Tracy had something else.
You got the binder.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. This council wants to facilitate moving ahead with the concession stand. The general feeling is that that's the priority. Let's get that going. We know we need to go out to bid. I don't know if Director Borges wants to add anything with you also. So basically, we want to go forward from tonight and see where we stand on getting ready to go out for an RFP. I know Councilman Lawson has some ideas about maybe something additional to that. Let's get the stand up so we can bring people to the carousel. I think it is our feeling that this would be separate and apart from any proposed discussion about a skating rink. We'll entertain that at another time. That can be done separate from this. But let's start selling chowder and hot dogs and things that keep people at the concession stand before we lose another season of not drawing people in. So I know you've updated us before, but again, can you give us the latest?
Better? Is that better? It's on. Sorry, I'm short. There we go. We've had a couple of meetings just to figure out where we go from here. We have to update the RFP, go back out to bid. And through the discussions, which I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen this, when I pulled out the drawings during the meetings, these are very basic drawings. It just consists of the four walls and the roof, which is why we've always had this open window of, once we pay that bidded price, we still have unknown costs to finish the building and to be able to use the building. So the suggestion was made to hire an architect to finish the drawings. That would give us an idea of the additional cost that's gonna be needed to finish this building. So if we do go prefab, we still have a lot of work to do before we can utilize it. So I did bring the drawings and I made them so like you guys can keep them, but just so you can see that it is very plain. So what we've started to do is we're gonna use the state's MPA listing for architects. We're compiling all of the information we've done so far, because we shouldn't go back to square one. We're just gonna hire an architect to finish what we've already done the legwork for, what we've already had approval from the State Historic Preservation. That way we can just move forward with the inside stuff. Once that's completed, we will revise the RFP and go back out to bid.
Do you have a timeline?
I'm hoping to have all the information I need to reach out to the architects by the end of the week. I think we all have a pretty good idea of what we're requesting from them. I just need everyone else to view it and make sure that I've got all my facts correct, and we'll start sending it out. And I would probably give the architects 2 weeks to put together a proposal and get it back to us.
And before I defer to Councilman Lawson and Councilman Rego, I would just say that I think with this project, simple is best. We want all the things that you want in there, but, you know, maybe not all the bells and whistles, but we're talking about amusement park concessions, not a sit-down shore dinner hall, which maybe someday on the other side of the street we'll get back to. But let's just get the basics. I mean, right now you can't buy a piece of, a bag of popcorn there. You know, we just don't have, other than when you put up your temporary stands, which I'll add this. I don't know if we're gonna get anything by this summer at this rate. It doesn't sound like we probably will. Can we, and you don't have to answer this specifically tonight, but can we look into other food trucks and other ways of getting in vendors? And we'll talk about that later, but, I mean, there's nothing that prohibits that, right? As long as we find someone willing to come in.
Correct. And we do actually have food vendors when we have events and stuff, but on a regular daily basis, we do not. And that reason is food trucks generally have a requirement. If they're going to set up shop there, they need to make a profit for the day. So when we have events, when we have the car show, we do bring in a food vendor, whether it's a local gentleman or an actual food truck will come to the property. And of course, when we have larger scale events, we invite more food trucks and more food vendors to come. But getting them there on a daily basis, there's not enough activity unless the carousel is opening and things are happening.
Right, right. Okay. Councilman Lawson?
Right, so everybody understands, and Tracy, please correct me if I'm off on anything. We're looking to build a concession building that will have the kitchen equipment, small seating area inside. Can we say Blount on Water Street, not the water side, but the market is kind of size smaller in case somebody's trying to visual?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
The one that is on the market, it's attached to the market. When you
Yep.
walk into the market and you go to
To
the
the right.
right,
Yep.
that addition they put on the building, that really is kind of the outlook we were looking to have, where you have your full service.
Mhm.
We actually have a window there as well, I believe. We would still have window service in the summertime, but it would have a small seating area for the winter months.
Okay. So that will be a part of the building, and then in the middle, we'll put Tracy's office with, there'll be bathrooms for the kitchen side and Tracy's office side. and then 1 or 2 bays of a garage. We're looking for storage for the carousel. They do various events throughout the summer, so having a place to store various equipment is part of the need of this building. So was it 2 bays or?
It is a two-bay
2 bays,
garage.
so the building's gonna be the restaurant portion, an office for the carousel manager, and storage. It's not-
And additional public restrooms, because right
I
now,
I apologize.
they only have one men's and one women's.
Gotcha. So we'd also we discussed with the Carousel Commission, we could look at monetizing the property by setting up a tent where Tracy could rent it out for weddings, for various events. We would like to talk to Dan Napoleon about putting a pad down. I believe the highway department has the ability. Tracy can work with you guys, tell you the size that she wants. That's something I think can happen this season if you guys have the ability, that we can at least look at that. And then the Carousel Commission is talking about the tent, whether it's more prudent to rent or buy, but Tracy's doing a due diligence for that. So the whole purpose of this building and the pad for the tent is to generate revenue, to help offset the cost of maintaining a 100-year-old carousel. So the drawings, we need are contractor drawings, so that the builders could look at it and say, okay, I need to do here, the utilities go here, this. So that's kind of the extent of what they would need, and
Agreed.
that's why the mayor said, let's bring in the architects. So, that's about the extent at this point.
Councilman Rigo, do you want to add to this discussion? There's a lot more, I'm sure, to say. So our direction is that you have our blessing to move as soon as practicable.
Thank you.
And anything you need. We know that we already have close to $600,000 allocated for this 500 and change. We feel that we can probably, through ARPA and other funds, come up with a little more, substantially more to get this done. We either want to get this done or not. And my opinion is to do it. And it's a major draw for the city.
And let's do it right. Let's make sure we get something that is what's needed.
Yeah, we can't say we're gonna put up 4 walls and have the city come in and do a floor and, it was a good thought. It wasn't your thought. I'm not saying it was you. It was an attempt to try to keep this, but let's do it right. And we know there'll be agencies that will come in to inspect. And do you need anything else tonight from us? Do you have any questions further?
No, but if it's okay, I just want to, because I'm not sure that everyone's aware. So we do have 525,000. A portion of that is actually geared for that pad that Councilman Lawson was speaking of. That pad has been a part of the original plan. Yes, it was originally to house the ice rink and house a tent. And when I talk tent, I'm not talking 10 by 20, I'm talking a huge tent of 40 by 100, so that we can have large-scale weddings and events there. I have spoken with the mayor. We had a great discussion with the commission. They are in favor and in agreement that we hold off on the ice rink at this time, that equipment that the nonprofit will need to hire a professional when and if the time comes to go through it. So we're all on the same page of putting that on hold because it should not be a priority. However, they would like to, while we're working this out, while we're getting ready to do this, to at least move forward, even if we cut that pad in half, because you can add an additional half later if the ice rink comes to fruition, and move forward on, it would be purchasing a tent, so that we could actually start that for this season and start rentals in the spring.
So is it your feeling and the commission's feeling that with the pad and tent up for this season, that you could still have events without a concession stand? Obviously, a wedding would have caterers come in and,
Correct, and we would allow the caterers to stage and set up in the original concession stand, because that building is completely empty. So caterers would be able to set up in there. We could host weddings. We have 2 large events already scheduled that we're planning to rent a tent for. This would eliminate that cost. So we could already start to make back some money this year.
You bring up a great, I didn't even think of that building as staging for catering, because we had discussed how do we get power to the pad and the tent. That's why she gets the big bucks, folks.
We would have electric on both sides because we do have it on the back of the carousel as well.
Right, anything else you can think of?
Carousel Commission, what do you, about 10 openings? 12?
We have 10 openings
Okay.
right now. We're going to be
Cool.
posting them on the carousel website and along with the link to apply for them. If you're interested in being a part of your history, please reach out and join us.
It's a lot of fun. If anybody has an interest, reach out. We'd be more than happy to have you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Madam Clerk, we can proceed. I'd ask Director Gonzalez, are there any other department heads that we want to hear from so that they don't have to stay? The chief is here for the discussion on which.
Item 7?
Sure, so without objection, we can move up item 7 on the agenda, East Providence Fire Station 3 rescue staffing and run status that Councilman Rigo and I think all of us want to discuss. Chief, thank you. Councilman, do you want to initiate the discussion? Or do you want to hear from the chief first?
Well, first, I wanted to thank the chief for coming here tonight. Obviously, Station 3 is in Ward 1, and it's become an issue that I hear from on a daily basis as far as the manning of Rescue 3 out of Station 3. Right now, it only serves the community on Monday through Friday, if I'm correct, on the day shift. And people are noticing the out-of-town rescues that continue to come into the first ward. You people, your staff does a great job, but obviously every time that you see Seekonk, Pawtucket coming down Newport Avenue, that means that there are no rescues from East Providence available.
That's correct.
So my question first to you is, what are your rescue runs? What were your rescue runs in 2022?
One second. In 2022, we had 9,330 EMS runs out of the whole city.
And that was for the whole year, 9,000?
Yeah, 9,330 EMS runs citywide.
Okay, and just a quick question. Obviously, we're 1 month into 2023, and I'm not, obviously I'm going calendar year, not budget year. What were your runs as of at the end of January?
I don't have that.
Okay,
I have data from 22 back.
Okay, so what was the uptick from, say, what was 2021?
2021 was, we had 8,393 EMS runs citywide,
So you increased over 1,000.
just about.
What are the mutual aid calls? What are the mutual aid calls coming out of, is there something I missed?
No.
Okay. What are the mutual aid calls coming out of, what are the mutual aid calls coming into into East Providence?
In 2021, we did 642 mutual aid runs citywide. That was 21. In 2022 was 949 citywide.
You requested out-of-town rescues 942 times.
That is correct.
So that's an increase of 300 mutual aid calls coming into the city of East Providence.
And don't forget, we're in a pandemic. We
Yeah.
have extra runs with COVID.
So again, I'm looking out for the whole city. And I got a pretty good memory. I would say, and you know, because you took me out in 1988 out of a little accident. At that time, there were 2 rescues. And then in around 1992, give or take, that was a 3rd rescue was added at that time.
Yes, a 3rd rescue was implemented in 1999.
99. Okay, I knew it was in the 90s, so it was even later. So we're talking 25 years, we're talking 25 years and that we've been operating, we haven't added. And obviously the rescue runs continue to increase.
That's correct.
And we're seeing all this construction of of condos and everything else that we talked about coming on here. So, and we want the population, we want the population to increase. We want businesses and everything in here. From a professional standpoint, how many, with all the additional housing and everything, there must be some study that shows what increases fire services, what it impacts.
We don't have an impact study as of yet.
So, and this is not a question to you, but it's a question for this, for the administration. When we are doing these new projects now and multi-units and everything, are we doing an impact study on what it would have on police and fire?
There is a 5-year comprehensive plan that just went into effect.
So, what I'm getting at is I know it costs money and everything, but I'm looking at these numbers and I'm looking at the quality of life for the citizens of East Providence that I think we need a full-time 4th rescue.
I agree. The numbers show it, but we
And-
have to get it budgeted.
So let's
We
talk
have to
about
do
that.
that.
Let's talk about that because I think all of us and everyone in the city agrees, and our fire service has become an EMS balance service more so than responding to fire. So what is the cost to do this?
So if you're gonna add another rescue, at least $1 million. But just so, he mentioned the COVID and the effects that COVID had on the fire department, the fire services. We're constantly evaluating the need for more and more fire personnel. We just put that more than 23 candidates, 20 candidates. So I think once we get a little further into the year, we can look at the numbers because obviously the pandemic and COVID, increased our rescue run dramatically. So once we get a better handle on it, and I know Mike Carey, Battalion Chief Carey, is very knowledgeable about runs and the nature of runs and the times and stuff like that, response time. So we're going to get with the fire department. We're going to evaluate it probably, mid-March, April, once we have a little bit more numbers under our side to be able to look at. But we're constantly evaluating, looking at it to need to add more rescues.
And outside, I'll get back to you in 1 second. Excuse me. I just want to bring this point out. I think I've asked before. So outside of the cost factor, we still have a good response time. Is that still the case? For instance, whether you're in Rumford, Riverside, Central East Providence, 3 to 4 minutes, something like that?
Right, all our engine and ladder companies are ALS licensed with the Department of Health.
This is an audit done. I mean, is it annually every 2 years? You guys evaluate.
Yeah, maybe
what's responsible.
go back to-
Yeah. It's done by an outside agency, right, Chief?
Yes.
So
Councilman?
2022 pandemic numbers, COVID and everything, everybody talks about, obviously 20 is the first year of it. 2021, we were still living in a nightmare. 2022, COVID sort of, isn't as big of an issue, but your runs continue to grow.
That's correct.
So with our, so we're still seeing an increase. Obviously, you might have the study that says how many were COVID-related transfers to hospitals, but we still continue to see an increase in the need for rescue service in the city.
Yes. It's because of the COVID,
Some COVID, some,
flu, car accidents. It's just about everything.
so what I would like to do too is I would love to see where percentage, because we do it in our business too and everything, like when the world was normal, like 2019, to see what the numbers were at 2019 versus 2022. Take 2020. You can't look at 2020 because I can only imagine what that was or anything like that. In 2021, we're still before, all the vaccines and people started getting, more educated and everything. So I'd love to see what the percentage increase is from 2019 to 2022. Because again, I just want to bring, all want to do here is the quality of life in the city. So I think by us providing, I know it costs money, but if we can tell people we have the best quality of life, because I think we have the best fire department in the state, that we need to have the best equipment and the best, best for our taxpayers. That's where I'm going with this. Thank you. I knew you would like that. See, I'm not that bad.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Lawson, do you want to add?
I just want to say I'm all in, whatever you guys need to staff this full-time. It's like insurance. You don't need it till you need it, and saying, sorry, it's after 4, you have a heart attack, we'll pick you up in the morning. I know we don't do that, but I'm looking at mutual aid numbers. I'm thinking about future development. Phipsdale Landon is going to have a 55-plus component to it. So I can imagine some rescue runs out there. Whatever you guys need, let us know. Is it just financing the staffing is where we're hooked up now?
It's finding the money to budget.
Oh, budget season's coming.
Well, he answered your question, Councilman, $1 million. That's what he needs.
Over $1 million.
I'm there if you guys need it.
Anybody have anything else to add to this? Chief, anything else you want to add? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Rego, for
you, guys.
bringing this forward. Madam Clerk, we'll resume back to page 4, I believe, Roman numeral 12.
First item would be council liaison to the school committee. Discussion, Council President Rodrick.
Very briefly, and I would like to acknowledge school committee member Max Brandel, who's here in the audience. Thank you for coming. And I just want to announce that we are attempting to reinvigorate the cooperation between the city council and the school committee. I've met with school committee chair Azanero, who is in full agreement that the city council and the school committee, the school administration, the city administration, all need to be on the same page. And I think the last couple of years we have made progress. And I remember a day, though, when that was not the case, but it's the case now. I, for one, speak about the value of education in this city. We can have all of the other things that we're talking about, but young families today look towards the education of the community. And I think we've answered in a big way with our new high school, with the additions coming on to the Martin Middle School, Waddington, some work at Olo and Riverside Middle School. So in that vein, I am appointing Councilman Lawson to be the city council liaison to the school committee. And that is also an invite to any of the council members. We have to keep it below 3 members for the Open Meetings Act, but up to 2 of us can attend those school committee meetings at any time, and we can vary who attends, but I know Councilman Lawson has an express interest to do that. And Chairperson Azanero said the same thing, that she will send different members. Committee Member Brando, would you like to say anything about the liaison between the two bodies, or do you have anything to add to this? Or are you going to be the liaison, or will you switch? I just have to ask you to use the microphone because it's recorded, that's all. Sorry to bring you up here, but.
Yeah, so I wasn't asked to attend, but I just assumed that nobody else was coming, so I figured I would just show up.
Good assumption. Yeah, well, thank you. And you've always reached out to us, and we will, you have any questions at any time, and I know we're looking at some tough issues ahead with school funding from the state, so we really need to work together. But thank you for being here, and we'll also be visiting school committee meetings.
Great, thank you. I look forward to the collaboration.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question to the solicitor. It was a point that you just brought up there, President Rodrick's. We, first of all, are all taxpayers. If there's a school committee meeting, and as long as three of us aren't sitting together, I mean, I have the right as a citizen, you have the right as a citizen, Councilman Lawson, Councilwoman Souza, Councilman Fogarty have the right to go to that meeting. We cannot conduct our own business, but we have the rights to go to the meeting as long as we're not conducting our own business.
You can gather more than a quorum as long as you are not participating in your own meeting and coming to.
That's what I'm saying. We're not, all five of us show up because technically tomorrow night, East Providence LaSalle basketball game. We all want to go. We're all there. I mean, you're saying we can't go. I mean, there are certain things. I just want to make that.
Yeah, no, good point. I agree, and I've always said that, you know, I've argued through the years that socially, we might show up at a birthday party, and I've had people say, oh, you can't be here, you can't be here. Yes, we can.
Yeah, that's what, so.
As long as we're not talking about city business as a.
So we're safe then, solicitor, I just want, for the record and everything.
As long as you're not conducting business, conducting a meeting,
Oh.
you're all set.
Only problem is.
Unless we have the chief of staff there, we wouldn't want to be conducting business. No, I just.
Only problem is if you go tomorrow and vote and support LaSalle, not you, but I mean, anyway, this is a big rematch tomorrow.
I'm wearing my red and white.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilman Lawson, as the official liaison, do you want to add?
I'm excited. Do whatever I can to help them out. Absolutely.
Thank you. We're going to skip around again, so we have a department head who doesn't have to sit here till the end of the night. I know he wants to get back to watch the president's State of the Union address. So if we go to page 5, and is it item 8? Councilman Rigo has put on the agenda a fiscal review. So Director Morphy would like to come forward at this point. Councilman Rigo, you have the floor.
Thank you. Malcolm, thank you for coming tonight. Can you just give me an update as to, or I should say, give us an update as to where we stand on the 21 audit?
Yes, all the information is to the actuary for the, you got 2 actuary studies, one for the pension and one for the OPEB, which are the benefits that go with that pension. So the auditors have everything except for that report. The data is at the actuary. They're hopefully will have that done mid-February, they're hoping. And then from there, we just turn it over to the auditors who have to plug that into their spreadsheets and just update it And from there, they've got to go through their audit review committee.
So where, timetable, are we looking at? Today's February today's February 7th. Are we looking at April, May, June?
We're hopefully going to have it done by the end of March. May roll into the beginning of April. But right now, if they can get it done mid to late February, the auditors need about a month to get it done. So we met with the Auditor General a week or so ago, and that's what we're shooting for. We're just, right now, we're paper shuffling. We're waiting for people to give us some data before we can move forward.
I've been online, and a lot of the other audits latest has been February. Now why is it being now pushed out? What's the delay now that's even making it longer before we see it?
There were a few factors in this one, and a lot of it had to do with staffing. I know in finance for most of last year, we were down a person, and in HR, they have not had a director. Director Gonzalez was filling in, and they were down a staff member. And so that's the last piece we're waiting for. So they've got a director in, they've got to fill one more slot. Finance has its people, though we're still playing catch-up mode. But usually, realistically, if we get the information from the state in September, you're talking 60 days after that, October, November, maybe even to December is when it should be done. Now, we did talk to the Auditor General. Stop me if I kind of run on a tangent here, but we're supposed to have it filed by April 30th. Now, we can't file that and get a unqualified opinion because we need information from the state. So you get a qualified opinion, which is kind of a red flag. So the question is it worse to file on time with a red flag or file late? And so normally we've been filing so we don't get a red flag, but we're filing late. We talked to the Auditor General and our fiscal advisors, and they were kind of reaching out maybe to the rating agencies to maybe get their take on it. They've got an acting Auditor General, and he was talking about maybe being able to get it to us by July, August timeframe, which is still better, but I don't ever see them getting this in time so we can get it done by April 30th.
So this was the fiscal year that ended on October, 31st of 2021. Well, I look at other cities and towns that run their fiscal year with the state fiscal year, and all their 21s have already been posted, other than Coventry. So the state is getting them their information.
And that's because of our fiscal year.
Yep.
Because their year ends 6/30.
Yep.
They've already got the information for their audit. It's just the way, per the GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board, it's just the way ours, so we're waiting for, so let's say they get the 21 information for theirs, but we've got to wait for the 22. So we're a year behind everyone else. And so what it does is it pushes us back.
So we got to get half of the states, we got to get 21 and 22 from the state is what you're saying, because the state's on a fiscal year. So if you look at the 365, the state finishes their fiscal year of the state fiscal 21 budget ends on June 30th of 2021. So the state does all their work for so all their financials for aids to cities and towns ends on the 30th day of June of the fiscal year. So in this case, it would have ended on the 30th of June of 2021.
Yes.
So the state now starts their budget. So they've done all their financial, whatever money they've given to each city and town, they've given it to at that point.
Correct.
So we should be able to have the state's 21, I mean, we should have the state's information already by the end, when we end our fiscal year.
But it's just not the way it works with the state.
So, but we're getting 2 fiscal year, I mean, are they lumping half of 2020, are they lumping 22 with us? Because the way we're going, is it all 21?
On their fiscal year, so we've got to wait for their, really was their 20 audit. So it takes them 15 months to get it to us from their fiscal year.
But how does a city that ends on the 30th of June already have theirs done? They're getting the same information that we're getting.
No, because on theirs, they can use the June 2020 numbers. We have to use the June 2022 numbers. So we've got to use the next fiscal year.
That's what I said. We have to use 22.
Right. So that's why we're a year behind.
If I can add, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that those extra 3 months means they have to do more calculations, correct? The state, for the OPEB?
It's just a matter of, everyone else uses the previous year. We have to wait for the following year to get our information. So that's why we're behind, because the way the GASB rules are, you can go back so many.
That's what I'm saying. It's 2 years worth of, we're getting we need 2 years worth of information from the state is what you're saying.
So if everyone else as of, uses, say, the June, for the current year audit, say they use the June 2021 information.
Yeah.
We need the June 2022.
That's what I'm
Yeah, it's still that same 12-month from July 1 to June 30th. It's just the following year for the state.
Malcolm, on November 1, 2022, did we begin fiscal year 23 or fiscal year 22?
23.
right.
Just started 23.
All right, so we're in fiscal year 23. The last audit online is from 20. And so you're telling us we just have to wait because the state hasn't given us the info for the 21 and 22 audit yet?
Well, we've got the information from the 21.
All right, and it's just a matter, you had staffing issues, you gotta put that together. Okay. Do you have a rough idea of when we could see that?
Yes, we were talking about the end of March.
End of March, okay.
I got a draft in 2 days ago.
Okay. Was there anything egregious in there you saw that, any red
No,
flags?
Actually, we had, which I was trying to explain when they were going to the rating agencies, we actually had a good year.
Okay.
The way the budget is for the charter, we budget 99% of revenues.
Mm-hmm.
So if everything comes out perfect, we'll have that 1% will be surplus.
Yep.
Which will roll into capital.
Mm-hmm.
Rough numbers, that's about $1.5 million.
Yep.
We ended up in 21, $3.5 million better than that. So we ended up with almost a $5 million surplus.
So we can fund our rescue.
And, well, that's a one-time fix. So instead of putting 1.5 to capital, we put over 2.3
Right.
or 2.4. So when you look at the audit, it says, oh, it's only like a 2.6. But we transferred 2.4 to capital. That's,
So can you repeat that again? You're looking at unofficially a $5 million surplus.
for 21, correct.
21. I just wanted that to go out there because, I'm hearing that, and that's the reason why I've been pressing. I'm not trying to come across as,
Delete Facebook.
I'm not trying to come across as a buster. It's not even Facebook. I'm not going to go to Stop and Shop anymore and shop. And I'm not doing this to be an antagonist or anything like that. I want to get the answer because I know things are going in the right direction. And I don't want to hear about, we're in a deficit. We have a $9 million Friday when I was at Stop and Shop. Oh, you must love your new job. You inherited a $9 million deficit. I'm like, I don't know. I'm glad you know it better than I do. So this is what I want to get out, the good information. So again, $5 million unofficially. Thank you for, that. I just wanted to repeat that to the world out there.
Thank you.
Doing that.
I go to Shores, by the way.
Okay, but
They
anyways,
don't, they just talk
Yeah.
sports.
Yep.
Thank you. We're gonna stay on, thank you, Councilman Rego. We're gonna stay here with the director while you're here at the podium and go to number 11, Madam Clerk, on page 5.
we said a couple more things.
Yeah, but while Malcolm's here.
There's a couple more on
There's
8.
a couple from Malcolm. We have more on 8.
Okay, sorry, so we can take 8 first.
We're on 8 right now.
You finished that, so next.
No, we didn't finish it. We still got to talk about number 3. I'd like to talk about I had separated.
Oh, you didn't separate, okay.
No, he
Well,
put it all in one
continue then.
request.
Can you give us the expenditures so far up to date as far as where we are in 2023's budget?
The last meeting, you had requested that we get the numbers a little more timely. We normally give them to you the second meeting of each month.
Okay,
And it was requested at the next meeting, you get December's and January's.
okay.
You'll have revenue and expenses.
Beautiful.
That at the next meeting.
And when do you anticipate the revaluation information going out to the taxpayers? That's a question I've been getting asked quite often.
That is hopefully going to be going out the first part of March. And so they've done, and sorry if I'm a little redundant here, but
No.
the way the revalve works is it's a 9-year cycle. And so year 3 and year 6 are a statistical. And then year 9, it's a full where they send people out and measure your deck and all of that, what we're doing. And this last year, we postponed it 1 year. And so the assessor has gone through all the sales, gone through all the building permits. They've sent it to the company that's doing the revalve. They've sent preliminary numbers back. And what she had recommended was giving you, having a presentation at the March 7th meeting to explain, how it went, how it's going. And then right after that, send it out to the taxpayers and say, this is your new valuation. And if they have any questions or concern, they can address those. And then we'd be done probably in April.
Thank you.
So listen, do we have the ability to cap the amount an assessment can go up? For instance, the last one where the terrace got hit, there was some people that had like a 40% increase without any major renovations, but especially on the terrace where people inherit their grandparents' bungalow and then they build a McMansion next door to it, and it's raising the tax rate. If you don't have that answer now, that's fine, but I just wonder if there's something we could cap how much. Obviously, if they did a major renovation, then yes, but if there was no major renovations,
This assessment is based upon the market and
Okay.
so there's really no cap. You want the most accurate assessment you could possibly get based upon the value of the property within the city.
gotcha.
And then within that total assessment, the percentage increase between classes of property can be capped, but the overall cannot be.
Okay.
Yeah, during the,
Cap, the law, excuse me, when I say cap, the law currently says one assessment can't be greater than 20% of a class. So like, single-family homes are, a class of property, multifamily homes are different, and then the percentage of difference between those classes cannot exceed a certain percentage as set forth in state law.
that way you could
Well,
say,
there are
we're
some
going to move it all, you can't move it all to commercial. We're going to give the taxpayer, the homeowners a break. There's
Got
got to be a formula there. And so let's just say for argument's sake, if everything goes up 50%, your taxes don't go up 50%.
Correct.
The rate will come down.
Mhm.
But it depends on how your house does compared to the average.
Gotcha.
And what we've been told is, let's say the normal house will go up 3% a year. Waterfront goes up 7 or 8. So,
Gotcha.
and then, so you think about that, and you only do this every 3 years, so it's 6, 12, 18, it could be 20% higher than everyone else's. And you always get into a fairness, and you can argue that it seems unfair they're taxed out of their house, but what's the solution?
And you just made a great statement that I hope people understand, that just because your assessment goes up doesn't necessarily mean your taxes go up. So it's the tax rate that determines how much you pay.
And So if your house was worth $100,000 and I was charging you $100 per thousand, if your house doubled to 200, the rate, it's not gonna, the rate's gonna go from 100 to 50.
Exactly.
Because let's say I need 100 million.
Exactly.
So I just say, you know, the more value your house is, the less the rate is, because I need that 100 million or whatever that number comes out to.
And I know people's mentality is, oh, it went up, my taxes, but you also equity in your home is going up. So if you need to borrow for whatever, so, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councilman, did you finish your? For that, okay. Staying on page 5, Madam Clerk, we'll go to number 11 while Director Moore is here. Item for discussion with Councilman Lawson. Councilman, you have the floor.
So I apologize for the long thing. I just wanted to give you guys what I was looking for. I didn't know that. Okay. The only reason I brought this up, guys, is we are going to be here for 4 years. And there's a chance some bonds may be dropping off. So I just want to get an idea of that because it's going to affect how we budget going forward. So if we know, like, roughly what our debt service is, because that's a fixed cost, it will help us with our budget. So this is just informational. So I probably should have said that it's more of a discussion. But if you want to give us an overview of anything that may be maturing within a couple of years, and also if you could give us an assessment of how the reimbursement from the state looks. Do they cut us a check, and then what do we do, and stuff like that? And it's just informational. I just wanted to know how we do this.
Okay, we currently have $228 million of original bonds that are still open. Of that, the balance is 193. Normally, the principal would be a lot less, but we just did the high school, so we haven't really paid off any principal.
Correct.
And I gave you a spreadsheet, and I don't know, we got maybe 12 bonds on the city side, and the ones that say RIH, EBC, Rhode Island Housing and Economic Building Committee, those are the schools.
Yep.
So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 for the school. The last one I think being 2012 for 15 million. That had a lot to do with renovating the high school because they had a problem with accreditation.
Yep, there was a need.
You know, recently we got 2 TIF bonds, tax increment finance,
Mhm.
one for East Point that we just did, and the other one is for Kettle Point.
Which comes right out of the tax revenues from those developments.
Yeah, and I explained to people, it's, if I'm the city and you're the developer, I'm like, well, you buy the land and I'll put the infrastructure in. And you're like, you put the infrastructure in and I'll come do mine. So this is a legal way that binds both of us. I promise to put in the infrastructure, you promise to develop it, and the taxes will pay for the bond.
Yep.
And so, you know, in theory, that's a win-win for everybody and the taxpayers.
And a TIF is infrastructure. It's not you're giving the developer money to do whatever. It's infrastructure.
Roads, sewer.
Exactly,
that
yep.
Type of things. We've got, so we got the TIF of 19 million, the 124 million, and the 24 million above it are both for the high school.
You said you gave us a spread. Did I not get it?
No.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, go ahead. I apologize.
Okay, and so we got a couple of small ones, efficient buildings, that was for the street lights.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got 2 bonds dropping off, ending in 2024, another bond dropping off in 2020, or 2 more dropping off in 2025. So that's what you look for, you know, when you're trying to bring the other bonds on, just hopefully they'll coincide with the dropping off so that, you know, instead of having to increase taxes 4%, maybe it's only 2 because some bonds drop off. You need to factor that in. The bonds for the water and sewer, those are enterprise funds, so when those drop off, it doesn't affect the tax rate for the general fund.
So we still owe 24, am I reading this right? So we bonded total for the water enterprise, 30 mil,
Yes.
principal about, and
So currently, as of the end of the fiscal '22, there's 20 million is still owed on that.
Still owe
30
20?
million.
Okay. And do we have a mature date on that?
So if you look at, you got in the column, the first
Oh, I see
start
it.
date and the end date, so that'll tell you when they mature.
Okay, it's not too far off.
And if you look at, like, under the water bonds, that first bond, it says $6 million. But then you've got principal forgiveness. So some of these bonds, we borrowed 6 million, but we're only gonna pay back 5 point something million, because they're gonna give you, normally when you go with the infrastructure bank, they'll give you a subsidized interest rate. And sometimes there are programs where they'll just forgive some of the principal you owe.
Gotcha. Was one of these bonds tied in with two other municipalities? Didn't we have one of those bonds for the sewer plant? That may have been refinanced already, but I thought there was an issue in the past.
I know that we spent a lot of money on was it the water? The water or sewer?
I think it was sewer plant. I think it
Because
was
I know
sewer plant renovations.
Because we also have Barrington hooked in,
Right,
and so they pay a portion of that.
okay. Did we borrow the full 189 for the high school? Did we go out and already borrow that?
Yes.
Okay. The Waddington project yet? Did we have to borrow anything yet, or are we still?
No, we have not.
Okay.
We're looking into exactly how we want to phase that in.
Sure.
I got a call from Warwick, actually, yesterday, because they've got $300 million to upgrade 2 schools. And normally what you'll do is because I don't want to borrow all of it now, because it's going to take 3 years to build the school. I don't want to have to pay principal and interest 3 years. So normally you'll do a short-term borrowing called BANs, bond anticipation notes. The problem with that is that is not reimbursable by RIDE, or whatever your percentage is. So when we were paying 1% or 1.25%, it wasn't a lot of money. But they're like on 300 million and they're paying 4 or 5%. So how do you fund this at the least expense to the city? So if we're talking about doing 2 bonds, it may be they're talking about 3 years to complete. So I'm going to have bond payments for year 1, year 2, and year 3, and let's just say it's 5 million. So I'm showing a 5 million expense in year 1, year 2, and year 3, but in year 4, I'm recouping all that. So I'm going to have a deficit, then I'm going to show like a $10 million surplus. So you're trying to talk to the auditors and say, is there a way that I can show that even though I spent 5 million, I'm getting 3 million back? So I'm not showing a $5 million deficit, I'm only showing a 2. But anyway, from a cash flow, I'm down $15 million for those 3 years.
Okay. So the reimbursement from the state, how does that happen? They owe, what'd we get, close to 100 mil?
And so what they said is, of the 189 million, let's say 140 was, so you're going to get, say, 70% of that 140.
Mhm.
So when they look at our bond payment schedule, and so of that 40, whatever we pay in that current year, they're going to give it back to us.
So they reimburse what we pay on the bond?
Yes.
Okay.
And it used to be we would get those payments twice a year. But they changed it that if we wanted to get reimbursed on the interest, we'd have to go through Rybeck. And so instead of sending us 2 payments a year, one in, say, October and one in April, they send our money to Rybeck, who holds it to make sure we make our bond payments. And then once they confirm that we pay it, then they send us the money.
And when we get that money, does it sit in like a restricted area, or is it going to the general fund?
In the general fund. On the revenues, you've got, state aid to the city. So you'll get telephone and hotel and meals, and we get state aid for school.
Mhm.
We get motor vehicle money, and we get school housing aid. So there's a line item.
Mhm.
So realistically, it just shows up as $5 million.
Okay.
Normally, when we show for the high school project, we'll say, yeah, we're paying 8 million, but we're really getting 5 million back. So the net for the year for the city is really 3 million.
Okay. So it goes into the general fund, but the amount that we take in is what we're paying out pretty much.
Yes, it really
Okay.
is supposed to go towards paying the
Got it. Okay. All right. And do you have a number of what our debt service total? Like what did we pay last year in debt service? Do you recall? And again, this is just because we're gonna be here 4 years. I just want to get a good grasp on how much we owe.
Well, last year, citywide, we paid about 22 million.
22 million. Okay.
I don't have that broken down between water, sewer, and general fund.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. And so are we still about 88% fixed cost for the budget? I'm sorry. Our budget, is it still about 87% fixed?
Yeah,
Salaries, benefits,
Yeah,
debt service?
you don't have a lot of.
No, no.
Supplies, and it's probably higher than that.
Okay. All right. That's all I needed. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk, we're going to stay on page 5 and go to number 5. Ask Director Borges if he could come forward. He has a few items, and then we'll shortly revert back to the regular order of business.
The water sewer infrastructure, that's, are you involved with that discussion tonight too? Okay, okay. I just didn't know if it.
We're going to do all those. So number 5 is, no problem. Madam Clerk, could you just read number 5, please, on page 5?
Yes, sir. Freedom Green Park repair, maintenance, upkeep to include grounds, gazebo, and benches. Discussion, Council Vice President Rigo.
Councilman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilman Rodrick. Again, Freedom Green is a very special place in the city. Obviously, there's a bench in honor of East Providence resident who lost her life on 9/11, a fallen East Providence police captain, a neighbor of my late parents who was innocently struck during a police chase, but by the person that the police were chasing and going away with benches. The facility is getting up in age. The gazebo roofing needs work. The benches have all mold. They're wood benches. I'm thinking about metal. The fencing needs painting. If we're going to honor these people, we got to maintain this property. And I just, I know there was the agreement with Agawam, which somebody put here and in front of me, but I'm thinking with the money, with the opera money we have, that maybe we go to metal benches and take the medallions that are on the wooden benches, and so that the people who are being honored be taken care of. And metal benches obviously are a lot better than wood benches, and there's less maintenance on your part. If we do it now, we do it once. Same thing with a metal roofing on the gazebo. There's also the missing fence that could become a liability to all of us. That's, somebody happens to walk down there, there's going to be some liability if somebody falls into the 10-mile stream. So I'm just looking at it that we need to spruce it up. I'm not talking about making it, into Central Park, but we need to maintain it and be proud of what it stands for.
Yeah, so the park superintendent and I have plans later in the week to visit and come up with a list of items that need to be addressed. We've just recently hired a carpenter in the city, or 2 carpenters. So a lot of the work that you've highlighted should be able to be addressed in-house. We'll look at all the benches and see if, in the meantime, we can at least replace any wood that might be broken. I haven't been by there recently, I'll admit. I did go by about 6 months ago, and, there were some items that need to be addressed. So we'll take a look and, address those accordingly.
Councilman, the original agreement that the adjacent Agawam hunt would do some maintenance, is that done now? Is that over? Are they no longer doing that? Or do you know?
That's in perpetuity. That agreement was signed in 2000. You all have copies, correct?
Yes.
I did bring some, so. No, that agreement is, in perpetuity.
They're supposed to be cutting the grass, right? And they're supposed to be doing their part, right? Our Parks Department shouldn't be cutting the grass right
No,
there.
we don't.
Okay, so they're living up to their end of the bargain there.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're applying, the pesticides and the fertilizers and doing all the edging, but, this conversation's brought, to our attention that, we're gonna reach out to the, golf course and, hold them a little more accountable, when it comes to upkeep of the landscape at a minimum.
Yeah.
So,
But number 3 would fall on us like the major repairs. So it would fall into us like the outside, the fence and the metal needs to be repainted.
roofing, trim,
Yeah, and all the
and-
paint and all has to be us and everything.
correct. Yep.
Okay. But it's good that we revisit because there's been management change over at Agawam. So if we remember, let them say, hello, we have this deal with you.
It was nice to come across this agreement too. So it, gives me the opportunity to, introduce myself to them and hopefully.
I'm glad I could help you.
Thank you, Councilman.
I just said, we're going to be here 4 years. It may not be a bad idea if we assess all the neighborhood parks and then come up with, say, a 4-year plan if there's any things that need major. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be able to do everything all at once, but we're going to be here 4 years.
It's in the works.
Okay.
The park superintendent and I have actually visited all the parks. The next step is to really identify all the assets within all of the parks, and come up with a strategic plan to do it all at once, but, maybe make this part of our, general budget expenses, in a conservative way through, a 5-10 year.
Absolutely.
So we can be on, somewhat of a rotation for benches, somewhat of a rotation for,
Exactly.
pavilions and so on and so forth. So we are working on that. It's one of my goals and the many things that I'm dealing with on a daily basis. But the plan is to ultimately present the council with some sort of report that identifies every, location in the city.
So I'll tie that into number 6, so it won't keep you what Councilman Lawson had to say. Lyle Bourne Park, it just, again, it's in the first ward, and walking by there and, a couple of times during campaign in general and started looking, and then I come to our house and I start looking at pictures of 2 younger children who are no longer young anymore. That one is 30, and I don't know how she got that old, and one is 28, and it's the same playground equipment that's there right now that these 2 young children were on. So I think, again, improvement, and I also look at it, we lack in all our playgrounds, and again, no fault of yours, and it's no fault on this administration because they've inherited. We got to do catch up in a lot of things and community involvement. We need to look at the special needs end of our population. I've spoken to a constituent who's runs special needs at a high school in another city, or I should say middle school, and brought up some good ideas as far as the mulch with wheelchairs aren't good. So we should look at apparatus while we have, and if there's any, besides what we have in opera, if we can apply for any grants to deal with special needs. I think that's part of the population that we're forgetting. And again, we didn't forget. Before us forgot it, and I think we need to look at that also. And I was looking at Lyle Bourne. Lyle Bourne needs to be done over, And if we can add that, and we can, as Councilman Lawson said, to add it to all of them.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity, similar to what we've done with Kent Park in Kent Heights. You know, we went out for a DEM grant, were awarded, you know, significant sum of money, and we intend on, you know, implementing handicap accessible playground equipment there. And you know, this is a good opportunity to do the same for Bourne when, you know, new grant opportunities come about. So we can certainly look into that and, you know, be on the lookout to try to, you know, gain some additional funding to.
Dan, I don't know if this comes under your purview, but the last council and budget, we appropriated funding for 3 new Parks Department employees. Have they been hired yet?
No, we're still in the process of filling a lot of the vacancies within the department. And then we're gonna take a good look at, you know, where the needs are, since that money was, you know, allocated a little more on the broad side. But we'd like to,
Right.
you know, be fully staffed and really, you know, work towards getting there and then assessing where the needs, you know, might be. So
Okay.
we're not quite at that point, but, you know.
Right.
as-
So we don't know specifically, but we do have 3 slots that we can use somewhere. We'll prioritize.
Dan, does the ADA come into play? I know you gotta have like the curb cuts so a chair can get into a park. But does the ADA require a playground for kids to have any adaptive?
Yeah, there's special types of equipment that, you know, are geared towards ADA compliance. There's also surfaces that you can install within, you know, these play areas, rubberized materials, you know, and different materials that, you know, allow access for, you know, wheelchairs and other, you know.
I'd love to recreate like an impossible dream here for that population of kids. I know we talked about Kent getting a big renovation, but
Yeah, we have a good opportunity at Kent. The landscape architect has, you know, put in some ADA, you know, compliant equipment, and I think it's ultimately we're close to going out to bid, and I think it's going to be a really great project once we do.
awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Councilman Rego, for bringing that up. Dan, if you would stay there. Madam Clerk, could you read item 12 on page 5?
Yes, sir. Water, sewer, road infrastructure funding, discussion, Councilman Lawson.
Councilman.
Again, this is just, this council caught the hot potato. We have to look at our under-the-ground water and sewer infrastructure. I'm just bringing this up to get everybody in that mindset that we're talking about a lot of things we want to do, but this is going to be something, we're going to have to start with an assessment, I'm assuming, so that way we know which pipes need to be looked at first. And the reason I put funding here, not to discuss specific, I know the infrastructure bank will help out and stuff, but can you give us an overview of how you imagine assessing the water and sewer under the roads, and if you think there's a plan of attack yet, or?
Yeah, I can speak to more of the sewer side because I think that's where the need really is. I
Yeah.
think we've got a good grasp of the water system, and you know, we actually just recently will be borrowing 26.1 million from the infrastructure bank to complete some, you know, well-needed improvements on the water side. But from the sewer side, I mean, we've been working with a engineering consulting firm to develop. They're working on like a 3-year capital improvement plan in the short term.
Okay.
For sewer line sections within the city that were rated 4 and 5 defect by a grading standard that's used to, you know, grade piping. So we have in the pipeline, we're working towards, you know, the first sort of phase out of a 3-year phase that we'll bring to the council and present to you. In the short term, that's kind of where I see, you know, us moving.
Okay.
Is trying to address some of the larger issues within the sewer system. And then, you know, long-term goal, 10-year plan would be developing a sanitary sewer analysis of the entire city and really targeting areas that are prone to inflow and infiltration, which is, you know, one of the main issues in our water system. You don't want to be treating rainwater or, you know, drainage. So that's the, yeah.
Yep. And I also put road on here as well. When we decided not to sink we were able to move, I think, about 10, 12 million to, was it 3-year contract? So we need to start every year allocating money to keep up with the road repairs. So we got the sewers, we got road repairs. So I just wanted to bring that stuff up.
I'm not sure the council's aware, but we actually did sign a contract with Beta Engineering firm who helped us develop a pavement management plan. They actually drove every road in the city and conducted LiDAR scan of the road surface. And what that did was grade every single road in the city in 20-foot sections from 0 to 100 on a scale from, newly paved to, pothole-ridden roads. So what that's really doing is going to set the framework to build out a capital plan depending on, where the city finances kind of fall into play.
Right.
So once we determine, what a comfortable number is to invest in road infrastructure, then we'll present that to the council, and it's a lot more than just paving a road.
I know.
There's, coordination with the gas company, make sure they're not gonna tear it up a month after we pave it. There's, coordination with all the sewer work that I just discussed, coordination with the water, cleaning and lining our water mains. We have large projects going out to bid now. So there are a lot of moving parts that, are required of making sure that, we do everything before we go and pave a road and then, receive that nasty call of, why did you tear it up? So we try to do our best to avoid that.
So our job's to make sure you guys got what you need to get the job done. So please let us know, whatever you guys need.
How many roads are Rhode Island Energy, the new, obviously the old National Grid, how many are they liable to do?
From a paving standpoint?
Yes.
So when they, request or when they go out and cut open a road to, install new gas main, they submit an excavation permit to the city. We review those permits. But there's a lot of coordination, in the interim throughout the year, where they're typically, the roads that they're installing gas main on are typically the roads that, are forecasted to be paved. So they're always working ahead of us. So we typically give them, a list of 50 roads or whatever it might be that, we're slating to pave based on our funding. And they, do their best to stay ahead of schedule. So it sort of depends, but I don't know if that answered the question.
So in the first ward, there were a lot of, couple of years ago, they repaired gas lines going, they did the underground, they put new gas lines going into houses, and there's a lot of rips in front of each house and everything. And there's a lot of streets that way that, they did their nice little patch after they did their drilling. Are those streets potential that they would pick up the cost of?
So it depends on the road. In some cases, depending on the size of the disturbance within the roadway, National Grid or Rhode Island Energy has a program where they actually will reimburse the city, the money that it would cost us to, mill and overlay or do whatever restoration work has to be done. So it really depends on the road, but most of the roads that have gas main replacements will either be, paved from the center line to the curb or potentially curb to curb, depending on the condition. So it's hard to say, but the
Don't we
answer to
have
that
a-
question is maybe.
Don't we have an ordinance that states curb to curb?
That depends on the size of the disturbance. Anything under 100 square feet, this was an ordinance that was passed, I want to say about 2 years ago, is at the discretion of myself. So, if it's a newly paved road, typically we do everything we can to try to avoid that. But anything over 100 square feet, there are certain requirements. And I don't know them off the top of my head.
You comfortable with it being at your discretion, or do you need some language to?
Yeah, I think within 100 square feet, if it's a newly paved road, we sometimes make an exception depending on, what it is. But yeah, I think the ordinance certainly protects the city from, any.
All right, thank you. Dan, do you have other items specifically? You're pretty well set? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. And thank you, Council, for your indulgence as we skipped around to accommodate speakers. I believe we're going to go back to page 4. resume the regular call of business. Madam Clerk, under council members, I think we left off at number 2.
Yes, sir. City clerk job description review, vacancy, and appointment procedure, discussion and possible vote, Council President Rodrick and Councilman Lawson.
Thank you. I have given each council member several weeks ago copy of job description for a city clerk that we had used under the last council. I have not heard back from anyone specifically, so I'm going to assume that that job description is basically okay. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask the solicitor, just to be sure, the charter requires us to fill this position or not, as it stood before.
Oh, yeah, the duties of the city clerk are laid out in the charter, so whether you refill it or not, that's.
The duties are there, but if there's a vacancy, does it speak to that?
A vacancy, of course, the vacancy, the deputy clerk serves as the town clerk.
Yes, right. But is there a mandate to us to
Fill it?
advertise and fill it?
Oh, the procedure as to how you fill it is up to you.
The procedure, right, but do we have to fill it, I'm asking?
It's no. The simple answer is no, but you have to have someone who's filling that role.
Right, which we do.
Correct.
Okay. So it may call for a little more discussion before we move on.
I did, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I did send you some revisions that I thought, I sent them directly to you. I didn't send it to the rest of the council, so I updated it a little bit.
Yes.
You know,
on the-
on-
Well, then, why don't we do this? I'm going to ask that we defer to the next meeting when we have a full council here. So that Councilman Fogarty, Councilwoman Souza, and I will send out the job description again with those revisions, and let's talk about it then. So do we need a motion to defer? No, okay, we'll just defer. Madam Clerk, next.
The next one
Well, we'll defer at number 3. Same thing,
is
please.
defer. Yes.
Yeah, it's about.
Defer at 3, yes. Just for the general public or anyone watching, that was just further recommendation on posting applications and interview for the city clerk's position. And Councilman, yes?
Can I just make a statement? In a mayoral form of government, the city clerk should be an appointment of the mayor. The way it's set up now, the council in, was it 2018, 16? Decided to keep it a council appointment, which you create a thing where the people in the clerk's office are serving 2 masters. You got the city clerk, who technically reports to the council, but the employees, they're city administration. So that's kind of, if people are wondering why we're dragging our feet on this, we're not dragging our feet, but we're doing our due diligence. That's why. We want to make sure that we don't run into situations that happened in the past, and we make sure those people in that office being taken care of, and they have a manager that is looking out for them.
In the meantime, from everything I'm hearing, and I do not come to City Hall often, I don't think I've been in the clerk's office yet since this election, but I hear things are running smoothly, we're saving some money, so let's hang on a bit, talk about this at the next meeting. Thank you. Number
We'd be at
4, we've already discussed. Number 5, number 6,
13.
we've already discussed. 7,
We
8.
have number 9 and 10 with Councilman Fogarty, if you'd like to.
Right,
defer.
numbers 9 and 10, I'm going to ask what Councilman Fogarty's on the next agenda.
Yes, sir.
Could you also add an item on behalf of Councilman Fogarty that would say there's discussion on Ken Heights water tower appearance? I think he wants to discuss
Already looking back?
that. I think it needs some paint or something.
Frank, grab your ladder.
It's in the works already? Okay, so. Yeah.
Can we change the logo to the real EP logo?
So just leave it as Ken Heights Water Tower discussion, and then maybe we can get an update in the next meeting. Okay, thank you. So we will defer that for Councilman Fogarty. Did he have, also number 10, we will defer where Councilman Fogarty wanted to discuss the intersection there, the former Wampanoag Diner site. So we'll defer that also.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Number 12, we discussed, number 11, number 12, okay, so could you please read, Madam Clerk, number 13?
Yes, sir. Number 13, handling and tracking of constituent requests between administration and council. Discussion, Councilman Lawson.
Napoleon, this is just, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. The stuff I've been getting, the traffic stuff, the chief and Dan, to me, they're the experts. That's how I go. I just want to see if you have a way that you want us, like I forwarded the email, I usually add you on it. If you have a different way you prefer that we bring up constituent things to the administration.
I'm sure you're aware of this. We have someone who does constituent affairs for us, and
Yep.
August.
Mhm.
So if any time you can include her as well as
Absolutely.
the mayor's, just the mayor's email, it goes to us as a group, and we address it individually as we get to it.
So the mayor's email. Okay.
Mayor's office email.
Mayor's office email. Okay.
She'll see that. I'll be aware of it, and we try to deal with it as
Exactly.
as we can. And she's pretty good at it.
Okay.
Done a good job with it since she's taken over, and she'll be able to shortcut some of the process because she's familiar with it.
So would you prefer I send the constituent request to that email and then you, okay. Sounds good. And how can we follow up? Because I like to let my constituents know that, yes, we are looking at your issue, and what's a good amount of time for me to send a follow-up?
So usually, within the week, within
Okay.
a couple of days, we try to reply back as soon as we can.
Yep.
Some of the issues get kind of complicated, so she might have to,
Everything's been great working with the administration so far, as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
And,
as you all know, you can contact me at any time.
Oh, absolutely.
Except for Council White.
Absolutely. I was just thinking the official, so the right eyes see it.
midnight on Saturday.
I wasn't even paying attention to that, was I?
And Director, I just want you to know that in my discussions with the council, I've urged them to make sure that when any of us on the council contact anyone in administration, that it's for the purpose of information. We don't want to be telling you what to do. I don't think any of us have, by charter, we can't, but wasn't always the case in the city. So just so you know, this is all meant to be positive. We need to get back to constituents. So I know some days I've given you a call, I've given Dan a call where somebody called me, a pipe burst in their street and water was bubbling up, and, what do you do, So, and Dan and others have been great, and we'll get right out there and we get back to you. So that's the light that we're coming from here, just to facilitate information. And if anyone hears anything differently, please let us know, let me know, and we're not going to be in a position of trying to be the tail wagging the dog. But we will be looking to be that conduit between the constituency, and I know you support that. Do you want to add anything, Councilman Rigo, to that? Good.
When a constituent reaches out, do they receive an email saying, we received your request, we're working on it?
There's a request for service section on the website that you can hit, and it'll respond back to it. But
Okay.
again, like I said, and the council president, I appreciate it and understand and acknowledge that. I appreciate the fact that you're setting the tone for open communication between the administration.
Yes.
And again, I can't reiterate this enough. Anytime you can call me at any time, it really doesn't bother me. See, that's part of what my job and my duty is to the city of East Providence.
Well, on the same team, buddy.
Thank you.
To address that issue, I had a constituent who reached out to myself and to the mayor's office, and that was I opened up the email this morning, and by this afternoon, the woman in the office had responded back to him, so I, so addressed the issue. So it was a quick turnaround there.
And we know it's not perfect. Sometimes it takes time. Some things are easy, some are complicated. I had a constituent kind of upset with me today, said I didn't get back to him sooner. It was about questions on noise ordinances, and, you know, we're waiting to get some reports in. So it's not a perfect world, but we will get the job done, and appreciate the open line of communications. May not always agree, but that's okay. We will agree to be civil and work on behalf of the constituency. Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk. No
There's-
public hearings, I don't think we have.
Nope, we do not have any public hearings. There is no continued business. We do have mayor communications. The first appointment, reappointment, is requiring council confirmation. It's Jerome Spinola to the Canvassing Authority. The term will be March 3rd, 2018 to March 1st of 2024.
So the mayor nominated Jerome Spinola to the East Providence Canvassing Authority. Mr. Spinola will be taking seat number 3. Will serve the balance of John Barone's term on the board due to Mr. Barone's resignation. Appointment's a 6-year term. The appointment is nominated by the mayor, subject to approval by city council, as the city clerk has just aptly said. Mr. Spinola has lived in East Providence for over, he's been a volunteer in East Providence for over 25 years. He's currently a retiree. He's a court-ordered guardian for an elderly gentleman in a nursing home. He's an active member, and as an appointment, was a member of the Affirmative Action Board.
Thank you. I would just like to add that I have not talked to anyone in administration about Mr. Spinola, but and I haven't talked to Mr. Spinola, but I do know him. He has been a very active person in the community. I think he also brings some diversity to the Board of Canvassing when we talk about voting rights and voting issues. And generally, we've been okay in East Providence, but I think his background with affirmative action, as I know of him, is a very reasonable person, but he does bring some racial diversity to this board, which has got to help. So he certainly would have my endorsement. We'll wait for Councilman Lawson, who I know is a little bit under the weather. Here he comes back. I'll wait for him to return, and then I would entertain a motion to approve or reject this appointment.
Councilman, first I want to thank Mr. John Barone for his service to the Canvassing Authority, and I wish him and his wife good luck in their new residence of the state of Vermont. And again, I want to thank him for his time serving the city of East Providence. And I look what you said. I look at Mr. Spinola, and I look forward to what you said with his background. And as you said, in my past life, I know East Providence never got on the Department of Justice's bad list because I would have known about it. So I would love for us to continue that way.
Thank you. Is that a motion to approve?
That's a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Democrat on the canvassing?
It's not put in terms of political party, but there is a balance. I'm not
Yeah, they
sure.
have.
what
Okay.
he's-
I'll make a motion to approve.
That would be a second. We had the
Second, I
motion.
apologize.
It's okay. You're used to doing number one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have that, 3-0. Thank you. Next.
Next is the appointment / reappointment not requiring council confirmation. It's Rick Lawson, appointment to the Carousel Commission, appointment number 9.
I'm voting no on this one.
The
I don't know if
term,
there's any motion. Yeah.
the term will be January 22nd of 23 to January 21st of 2024. Councilman Lawson is a third-generation townie. You sure?
This does not require council. He's lucky.
No, you don't
Okay.
want to tell. All right.
Next. Congratulate. Good luck.
Thank you.
Carousel is probably right up there, number 1, 2 in the city of what people expect to work.
Southern EP is a beautiful place, buddy.
Let's see, items for announcement, discussion.
So, as earlier, before the council meeting, we had the unveiling of the portraits of Mildred Morris, Valerie Perry, and Dave Kelleher. We had a little ceremony, and the portraits were done by Jen Cahoon. We just wanted to read that into the record, that the portraits now hang out in the foyer area of City Hall.
Thank you.
These things were done years ago, but COVID derailed the whole thing. Crazy.
Next would be we welcome people to join the Mayor DeSilva in the city of East Providence, celebrating our city's remarkable women who have done and continue to do extraordinary things for our city. Nominations are currently being accepted. Visit our website, eastprovinceri.gov, or stop by East Providence City Hall for a nomination form to nominate a remarkable woman. Next would be the Black History Month. We'll be honoring the past, inspiring the future. Join us in celebrating the lives of the historical figures that changed the course of Black history. The speaker will be Richard J.G. Martin. And the event will be right here in City Hall, February 15th at 3:30 p.m. Mr. Martin is an African-American history teacher. We look forward to that day.
I might add that if you haven't heard Mr. Martin speak, you should. He is very, very impressive, very articulate. Usually has people leaning forward to hear more. He's retired from teaching. I think he goes back to help once in a while, but he is definitely a person that you would like to hear from. That would be
I second what you say, buddy. He's awesome, and he's a great asset to the city of East Providence.
That's February 15th at 3:30 p.m. City Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The reports of other city officials, they're none, Madam Clerk?
Other than, excuse me, Mr. President, that the city council did meet in executive session to discuss the two items that were on the agenda pursuant to 4246-4. The activity that will not be disclosed at this time because it would jeopardize future negotiations. No votes were taken, however, it was just a discussion.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Next item, resolutions for discussion and possible vote. First is a resolution amending Resolution Number 156, recorded in Book 27, page 186, regarding the disposition of the City of East Providence's interest in Tax Assessors Map 305, Block 6, Parcel 5.1. Sponsor, Council President Rodrick.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This goes back to action from the prior council and been discussed earlier. I won't read all of this. I don't know if, Mr. Solicitor, you want to put it in a nutshell or?
Council President, I know that you've been working on this with the Assistant Solicitor, so I'm not as familiar with it as
Okay.
I probably should be, but I know this is a cleanup resolution that we're just trying to,
The cleanup resolution and to put a clear up title and put a parcel back on the tax roll. Let's see, I will read some of this. Whereas the petitioner requested that the disposition of the land be amended to reflect the fact that the city of East Providence is no longer the party burdened with clearing the title, the aforedescribed parcel. The parcel is in the tax assessor's map 305, block 6, parcel 5.1. Upon clearing of this title, the parcel in question shall merge with the city of East Providence tax assessor's map, as I've just outlined. The resulting lot shall be subject to a restriction whereby this lot cannot be subdivided. City of East Providence is delegating that responsibility to the grantee in consideration for the performance of the legal work necessary to clear title on the subject property and return the property to the city's tax roll. So this was a small piece of property that was not on the city tax roll and will now be.
you jogged my
Yes.
memory, I'm sorry. This was a, this was a piece of property adjacent to the lot that's mentioned that was taken by tax sale by the city at some point way many, many years ago. And a butter had requested to merge that parcel with his own parcel. However, we had to clear the title to it, and we had some legal work to do that. In return for doing that legal work, now that we have clear title and foreclosed on the right of redemption, the person is paying us $5,000 for that, with the stipulation that the property could never be subdivided. It basically extends the person's backyard. It's kind of a wet area, I believe, too.
So I would, if all the questions on this, if not, I'd entertain a motion
But no, the tax roll is a good thing.
It's a good thing to pass resolution
So moved.
number 156, moved by Councilman Lawson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Rego. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 3-0. Thank you. Next.
Next, resolution in support of housing development and land use. Sponsor is Council President Rodrick.
Thank you. This is one of those non-binding resolutions. I've been in touch with the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, who has reached out to all the cities and towns, and they're basically just looking for support. We're down the line of legislation that would make a priority within local governments to work on not necessarily low-income housing, but affordable housing. I know that in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, there was a major article about the housing needs within Rhode Island. We hear it all the time about young families. We're talking about people that can't afford to rent an apartment at some of today's prices. This has nothing to do with developments or specific projects. It is a resolution that most cities and towns are forwarding and to their supporters at the General Assembly. I'll read some of this. It's a resolution in support of housing development and land use, whereas housing continues to be a priority at all levels of government in Rhode Island, and whereas municipal leaders stand together in welcoming the development of responsible housing in our communities and are interested in working with stakeholders across the state to improve housing opportunities for Rhode Island. They're also trying to make whatever we do, make it a local decision and not necessarily have the General Assembly handcuff us. So it goes on to say, whereas local leaders agree zoning and land use should remain a local decision. It is now, but there evidently is some potential for that to be taken away from cities and towns. Members of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns support the establishment of both the land use and low and moderate income housing study commissions to identify ways to help cities and towns meet their obligations under the Low and Moderate Income Housing Act to ensure that at least 10% of the housing stock qualifies as affordable, and whereas there have been challenges with implementing changes to state law that were approved in the last legislative session. We know that has come up locally in East Providence with about the 10% set aside for this. So it says a lot of the same things. I won't read it all. Talks about basically getting cities and towns to work together and keep what we already have in making local decisions and trying to help. Everything I read in here says that one of probably the top 2 or 3 problems in society is housing. You can argue a lot of facets to that. You know, is it low income? Is it moderate income? Is it Section 8? Should we bring in higher income? So they've asked us to join with at least supporting them. It doesn't bind us to do anything. I don't know if anyone has a specific question on this.
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion made by Councilman Lawson to approve this resolution in support of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Rego. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Next is a resolution adopting amended rules of procedure of the City Council. Discussion and possible vote.
Council,
Mr. President?
Yes.
I make a motion that we move this to the next city council meeting when we have hopefully all 5 of us here. I think it would be the proper.
Yes.
Okay, and I would just add that, you've all received them. If you have anything you want to, just remember, by not passing tonight, we keep the same, everything's the same as it was. So starting time will be 6:30. It's not a big deal.
One thing I do,
Yes.
when we talk next week, the 4 PM Thursday, I'm thinking we should move that up to Wednesday or Tuesday, because 4 PM Thursday, they close at 6, and then a half-day Friday. We want to give the city administration some time to, do their research. They don't, we don't want them working over the
Well,
weekend.
Tuesday might be cutting it too soon, because then that limits the council time to get stuff in, but Wednesday's not a bad idea.
I'm
Madam
just,
Clerk, what do
we'll
you?
discuss it at the next, I just wanted to throw that out there,
Yeah,
that
we
we
can
have
discuss
short
it
hours
then.
on Friday.
All right, so we'll put that off to the next meeting. Next item, please.
There are no introduction to ordinances. Next would be adjournment.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Rego, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.